Want any help? Yeah, Vibe. Definitely. Please do. Please, please do. Let me look back here. Yeah, we needed a Hive. I think that's one thing I definitely know is Hive was really late. Hive was really late. Notepads out, lads. Indeed. Vibu gonna give us some tips. Let's see how... I feel like, again, droning also. You'll get on, and we can look at the replay together. Yo, I'm down. I'm very down for that, friend. Alright, I'll hop out of the replay so it's fresh. You gotta load Banes and ram them into the BCs, bro. Insta easy GG. Why can't I contain all this Pog Champion? So we're about to get an impromptu discussion with Vibe. Thank you, Vibe, for the help, my friend. Really appreciate it. Accepted. Alright. Let me roll it up, and then I will make you the host. Let's do this. And you are... yeah, prior lobby host. That's it. Okay. Cans are on. If you want a Discord call, we can. I ain't gonna say no to that, brother. Let's do it. I am down. I don't know if I have you on Discord. Let me find you. Send you the old friendy. I assume you're on Neuros. Oh, yes.
Hey, yo.
What's up, dude?
What up, man?
Not much. Just getting kicked in a little bit tonight, but that's okay. I can take it after hitting Masters last night. So
Nice, man. Congrats. Is that your first time hitting Masters, or is that like the first time in a while?
first time hitting Masters ever.
Oh, fuck yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sick, dude. All right. So I will. We'll go over this pretty fast. I'll because I actually really like playing against Mech. So I was like,
okay,
this is like my forte. But yeah, we'll talk about like mostly your setup, about how you go about it.
Okay.
Like the you're droning and stuff like that. But if you act like what someone in chat was saying, where they said you can go Roach Corruptor, that's very true. You can, and it's so strong.
Okay.
Like if it's battle mech, you can. If it's like tank based, you just go mutas and you just win the game. You should always build a Roach Horn and a Spire together, and also an Infestation Pit. Those three buildings, it gives you the option to go for Swarmhost, Roaches, or any variation of Corruptor Muta. And based on what you're fighting against, it makes a lot of sense to do certain things, and we'll talk about what you see.
Okay.
For how you can like discern like what is good. But yeah, so far nothing's really happened. We're speeding it up there a little bit. You're getting to his base. You're making drones, which is perfect. You got a couple links coming for the Reaper. All's good so far. Okay, I think that's your first mistake right there, though. Definitely be a little bit more committed to scouting up the ramp, and the reason why is because you can identify that it's mech really early, and you can identify not only is it going to be if it's potentially going to be a double factory opener, but you could also see if it's going to be 1-1-1 harass, and things like this tell you the difference of how fast you should make a Roach Horn or more queens.
Okay, how do you know that? Let me start there. So is it because it's the reactor on barracks?
Yeah. So when you play the game, do you have health bars on always? Out of curiosity.
Yes.
Okay. So if you looked at his base, you would see the bars like that. You could tell that this is a Hellion opener already, and the reason why is because the reactor is a little bit less build time than a factory by 7 seconds, and the fact that the reactor is like, we're talking like, if you just kind of gauged it off the health bars, you'd be like, okay, maybe like 15-20% on the reactor, maybe like 45% to 50% on the factory. So although it's not perfect, you are going to have this reactor and this factory finish within about 5 seconds of each other, or like 6 seconds of each other. So you can imagine he's going to probably, and the factory's going to finish first. So he's going to swap that shit over. He's going to lift it, and then the barracks is going to finish after. He's going to swap it out, and he's going to go Hellions. And then if you had your Overlord scout this just for a split second, and you saw that the fact that you saw a Reaper go underneath your Overlord, because you saw that first, but then you see that the barracks is busy making an add-on now. There's no threat for you to leave.
Oh, true.
You could just be like, I'm chilling. Just sit there. If there was a Marine, however, you could still get shot by the Marine like once or twice, and you could still make it to the cliff. Because one Marine will not kill the Overlord. So just knowing that it's Hellions is huge. And then you could see, if you see, okay, he's gone for a starport after the factory, which is what a lot of turns do. It's like standard 1/1/1 openers. That would be a good time to make more queens. Like we're literally talking going to like 7 or 9 queens.
Okay.
How many queens do you normally go for in your games?
About
against Terran
specifically against Terran, probably like 5 creep queens normally, if it's not like a BCs or something, and then 1 queen at the first 4 bases.
Okay, so you have like 9 queens or so?
About 9, yeah. But if I see it's BCs or if I suspect it's something like that, then I'll usually very quickly try to get like 7 floating queens, and then just 1 at each base.
Yeah, so like 9 queens is already solid. That's a very healthy, good number to have. But if you saw, for instance, as well, if you were to scout into his base and you saw he went for a starport, that could mean you could, instead of prioritizing roaches, you could prioritize more queens, which frees up your gas, which allows you to go to a faster layer. So you could actually prioritize roach speed faster later on, because you're not going to get the gas initially for the roaches. You're just going to make the layer and go for roach speed later and make roaches later when you can afford it with more drones. But if you saw a second factory, you'd delay the layer, and you'd make a roach warren faster, and you'd actually make roaches, because now you have to worry about Hellion Cyclone.
Okay.
And you would still get a layer relatively early, but you would just maybe prioritize some roaches first. But this is huge, though, being able to see that. And then because we'll just see what he builds here in a second. I'm going to speed it up just to see what he does. So now you can see he would have went for a starport. So if we're talking starport, this would be that moment where it would be a better idea to maybe prioritize the layer first. And you're still going to be making queens. Queens can zone out. You have speedlings as well. So a speedling queen could easily zone out the Hellion. It'll allow you to get good creep spread. And from there, you'll be able to handle a couple Hellions, because it's not going to be more than, he's going to probably grass you with like 4 Hellions or maybe 6. Like he's not going to be hitting you with like 14 or something like that.
Sure.
So Lynx can easily get the job done, and Queens can zone out. And this is huge too. Really quickly, okay, your vision is correct. So I'm going to ping the map and just look at these pings, okay?
Okay.
There, right here is 1. Right here is another, and right here is another. Always, if you ever see a player, no matter what, if they're going for double factory or single factory, always put, like if we're talking a reactor factory opener at all, always put your 3 overlords there that are overlords 3, 4, 5. And doing this on every map, and the reason why this is important is because you put it at the front of every entrance to your base. And it's way further forward than creep. What this allows you to do is it allows your queens to always be in the right spot.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Because it definitely is difficult moving them around quickly, right?
Exactly, yeah. Because so if you're like at the north, if you're at the north and he runs to the south, you don't realize that, you're like, oh shit, queens, go back.
Yeah.
You're forced to use your lings then. And the trick is, what good Zergs will do, you never use your lings. You have them, just in case he YOLOs and runs by your queens and just like takes damage, but you never use the lings. A lot of Zergs, what they do when they get screwed is they use lings, especially off creep, and chase Hellions all day. And they just waste lings over and over.
Okay.
So that's huge too, having just vision of that. And you can get rid of the queens, or sorry, you can get rid of the 3 pinged overlord spots once your creep gets there. Then you don't need to have them out there anymore. But just for the start of the game, like right now, it's definitely useful. Another thing too is I would say your third is a bit late. And the proper supply you want to go for your third always, no matter what, just when you play against Terran, if you ever see, oh yeah, he went for a natural, and now I know I'm not going to get all in by 1 base shit. You should go for a third at 30 supply.
Okay. How do so I have been doing that is something I used to do.
Okay.
And I recently had been doing more of a 4-queen kind of like instantly. So the 2 queens pop out instantly, 2 more queens. So I feel like I could probably still get it at 30. Do you just escort the drone with the queen against the Reaper, or how do you like to try to secure that?
This is what I do. This is what I'll do.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't make a queen out of my main after the first one. I just let it kind of be. I'll tell you my queen order as well after this. But I drone my main. I drone my main all the way to 20 before making an overlord. I literally go 3 out of 3 gas, 16 out of 16 mineral line, and then I take my 20th drone, and I just rally that egg to the 3rd.
Oh,
and then I literally put it like there, like behind the mineral lines. I hide it behind the mineral lines so that yeah, so he can't, like the Reaper, if it ever goes to the 3rd first, it'll probably be like, okay, no drone here, no 3rd here. I'm gonna go to the natural now because the Reaper definitely wants to like get the like prioritize that time before queens are out. But then as soon as I have 300 minerals, I'll just take the 3rd. And here's another trick too. This is something you don't have to do, but this is something I definitely do all the time. If I ever see with my first overlord that he does have a natural, I don't get Zergling speed before 3rd base. I always take the 3rd first because he has a natural, and then I get Zergling speed after. Because there's nothing you got to worry about. You don't have to worry about like a bunker proxy or like a Reaper proxy or something like that, because you're still gonna have speed and time to deal with Hellions.
So so in that scenario where you see the natural, you go 30 3rd base.
Yeah.
And then you get speed? Do you still pull 2 off of gas at 100?
I do.
Or what do you
so if I see the natural, a lot of times what'll happen is the way it'll time out, your overlord on most maps will get his natural when you have about 70 gas out of 100. As soon as I see, natural, we're good. I'll just take 2 off of that at 70.
You just do it then.
Natural.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then I'll just mine with 1 to 100. But if it's a map that's a longer distance, like some maps have weird distances for the natural, but if it's longer and you happen to just get to 100, it's still okay. You could still be at like, take 2 off at 100 and mine all the way up to like 112 with the single drone and then take your speed anyways. Because there's no priority for speed if he expands.
Sure. He's not going to...
the only priority would be is if you ran your base with like 2 Hellions. But if he did that, like you'd have queens anyways, that would just wreck his face.
This is some interesting stuff.
But the big one is just getting your 3rd down as soon as you can, because it makes your creep faster and it makes your drone line just be able to saturate faster.
Oh, there's Twitch channel.
But not before 30
Twitch
though.
Channel. Oh man.
Yeah, well, you can take, honestly, I would say the range of having it being like okay or like acceptable would be like 30 to like 33.
30 to 33. Okay.
Yeah. So if you take it like like 32 or something, that's totally fine still. But you want to definitely take it right around there, because right now around like 38, your 3rd, the fact that you have queens 3 and 4 started and they're halfway done, your 3rd should already be like 25 to 30 seconds of the way into production already.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try the at minimum the rally the 20 drone over there feels nice.
Yeah.
And grabbing it at 30. Okay.
Another thing is your first queen at your natural should, because you take a 3rd so greedy like this, you should always, and also because if you're going to be doing a 3 base opener that's fast, you definitely want to have creep defense against Hellions like we talked about. So having a creep tumor first at your natural where it is right now, like popping it down at the edge of creep to go towards the 3rd, that's huge.
Okay. So before inject even.
Yeah, your first queen at your natural should tumor first, and then your first queen in your main can eject. And the reason why is because if you do all these things where you mine 100 gas and then take 2 drones off, so you get Zergling speed. If you make queens out of your hatcheries and you make a 3rd queen right after out of just your natural, and then you take a 3rd base really fast and you spend all your larva that you have already, you will not actually be able to spend a double inject. You won't be able to afford that unless you have larva just kind of sitting there for a little bit. So it's kind of like one of those things where it seems good because you're getting more larva, but you're waiting on the ability to spend your larva anyways when there is no cost to spread creep. Like it's just a thing you can do. And if you spread the creep between your 3rd and your natural, your 3rd will be fully covered in creep. Like they'll be connected as it finishes, so your queens can already bounce back and forth and defend both mineral lands.
Got it. All right, I'm just gonna write some of this down here. I've been
Yeah.
taking notes, but let's see.
Yeah, the early game is like fucking huge. It sets the pace so hard.
Yeah.
Because here, this is a big number for you to honestly. If you have a second too, write this down. This is huge.
Yeah.
If you can get to 66 drones, fully saturated 3 bases by 5 minutes and 40 seconds, you are crushing it. Like, and we're talking about Masters League.
Okay. That is a step up. In Diamond League, I shot for 60 drones by 6 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I always tell people around 6 minutes as well for a diamond. But you can do it by like 5:30. You like if you're playing like really fucking fast, you can do it by about 5:30. If you're like like no fuck ups at all.
Yeah, if you're just hitting everything.
Yeah, like 5:40 is still very respectable. Like it's super fast still.
Okay.
But yeah, so like, and that's including the fact that you're going for like a tumor first and all this stuff. It's all about the biggest thing about it is the trick is you waste no larva by excessively making lings. You just make the initial 4 for the Reaper, and then you make about 10 more, so you go up to like 14 for the Hellion phase. And when you make the other 10 lings is when your speed is about to finish. So when your speed's like at 60 seconds, you would make the other 10. And then you stop. That's it. No more lings. And then you do not make any more units if your opponent goes for a macro opener like this, where it's not like a 1 base all in.
Okay.
And then you just literally, you do not make any more units until you're honestly at around like almost 6 minutes when you're ready to make roaches with 3 base saturation. Because the Queen Link can easily hold up until that point.
Okay. Huh. Interesting. All right. I'm digging it. I'm liking it. I've got this down, so let's
Yeah, and then the only time it would ever make a difference, the last thing we'll say is if you scouted this what's it called? The 1/1/1 from Terran.
Yeah.
This is guaranteed. You don't need to make roaches before 6 minutes. Guaranteed. But if it was a double factory, you would need to make a roach warren and you need to pay attention to that. And if this dude goes like double reactor mass Hellions or something, you definitely need to make some roaches. Like you'd have to like probably cut drones at like maybe 52 or 55, make like 6 roaches and then go back to droning. Because that's like excessive pressure that he's going to throw at you.
He's going to do quite a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's why that Overlord Scout's fucking huge.
Okay, so that first Overlord really sets quite a bit.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is you also could just make a Baneling nest. If you saw so here's the thing. Let me tell you this. I don't know if you know this for sure because you were talking about the reactor. If you see a factory and a reactor, a barracks on a reactor plus a factory, and they're both started roughly around the same time, where it looks like they're going to finish around the same time, it's always Hellions. Always reactor Hellions. However, if you see a reactor on a barracks that is almost done, or it is just finishing, and you see a factory just starting, it's 2/1/1. It's double barracks factory start work, and it'll be bio.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down.
So the reactor is either going to be like basically done when the factory starts, or they're both going to be starting at the same time. And that little tiny Overlord Scout alone tells you, oh, it's bio, oh, it's mech, cool. Or it doesn't have to be mech yet, but it's like a standard traditional Hellion opener.
Sure. Okay. Do you do a follow-up scout into their base?
Yeah. Your second Overlord's perfectly placed for that. And you should send it in around 4:15 or so. Like 4 minutes to 4:15 is when you should start sending it into his base.
Okay, I'm gonna just cross my fingers that I did it at around 4. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, because like right now, if you send it in now, you'll get through his base around 4:30, and you'll see everything you need to see before it happens. Okay. And if you see this fusion core, okay. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say here at 4 minutes versus Terran, pretty much regardless of what I've scouted, because I didn't really have a solid understanding of that sort of reactor situation. Yeah. I pretty much always went layer, roach warren, double gas. It didn't really matter what I scouted. I would almost always just go with that because it just seems like a solid kind of situation. What in this spot here with what we scouted, what would have been your timings for layer and roach warren?
So if I scouted 1/1/1, I would have made my Roach Warren. I almost always make my Roach Warren as soon as I start saturating the third base, because you can afford it and you don't have to cut drones doing that. Like your larva always gets spent being able to do that then.
Okay.
So when you start droning the third, you take your Roach Warren, and then you do not take your gas like you're taking now until you're or let me talk about your main gas too, because I don't know if you know this. I don't actually put the two drones I take off gas on the first one. I don't put them back on until my natural is 16 out of 16, and then the next two drones I build go back to that gas. So fully saturated on 2 mineral lines is when I retake the gas saturation in the main, and I would take gases 2 and 3 when my third base has about 12 drones on it with minerals, or like 10 to 12.
What was that last part you said?
The gases 2 and 3 don't get started until your third base has about 10 to 12 drones on the mineral line. So it's more than half saturated.
So quite a bit later than I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, also, you would have more drones than you would have right now, too, if you had a third base that was up faster. And here's the thing with my queens, too. The goal that you want to go for, and I learned this. This is something I didn't really respect until I watched Stefano play back in like Wings Liberty. You always want to have a queen at the hatchery as it finishes, ready to inject it immediately.
Okay.
So your first queen should do a tumor, and then it should if you start your hatchery by 30, you'll be ready to inject it with the next 25 energy almost. Like it'll be probably like 35 or 40, and then you'll be injecting your hatchery.
Okay.
Like it's fucking fast.
Yeah. And then are you just constant queen production out of the natural?
Yeah, so I'll produce 3 out of the first 2 bases. I'll do 2 at once for the first when the spawning pool finishes, and then I'll produce a third queen out of the natural by itself, and then that's when third base will be done, and then I produce 2 queens at a time out of natural and third base.
I see. Okay.
And those become my continued active spreaders, because the first 3 queens I have will all be injectors. It's just that the queen out of the natural does a tumor first, and then it injects the third.
I see. Okay. Interesting. And then I know I'm asking a lot. When in this situation would you grab a layer then?
I would grab a layer. So in this situation, I would grab a layer with my first 100 gas once I spent all my larva. Like again, your larva is always a priority.
After ling speed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I would get ling speed. I would make my 14 lings. I'd have my queens. I'd have my overlord spread, and I would be relying on queens only to defend this. And then as soon as I had 100 gas and I was like not sitting on like 8 larva or something, I would then make a layer.
So that's
like if you. Or go ahead.
Well, actually, yeah, it would be a different timing than I'm thinking of because you don't refill it right away. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. And then you just want to, because again, larva, you never want to be like, oh, I need the layer quickly. And if you ever have a situation where you have a bunch of larvae sitting there, it sucks. And you're gonna have hard times spinning your larva if you take a third this fast and you inject it this fast. If you do gas priorities at all.
Okay.
So the goal is definitely going to be you're basically not going to really ramp up your gas until it's going to feel like you're almost fully saturated on all 3 mineral lines. And then your minerals are just going to be exploding like crazy.
That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and then it allows you to take a really fast 4th base. You could take a macro hatch if you struggle to spend it. And you could explode your gas at that point with all gases at once you hit the full saturation.
Okay. Wow.
Because one thing I like to do against mech, I do this a lot, is I will overexpand against mech, because mech cannot punish it. All you have to do against mech as a general strategy is make a roach warren, infestation pit, and a spire, and you just make creep spread with roaches, which can defend 90% of what mech does. And then if it's battle cruisers, you make corruptor. If it's like very heavy tank based or anything heavy anti-ground based, you could just make mutas and you just win. I'm not even kidding. Like you're just like, hey, I got mutas, and you're dead, because that's what mutas can do if he's not pushing with a bunch of Thors. And then if he is pushing with a bunch of Thors, you could always just go roach swarm host, or just mass roaches.
I do like swarm hosts a lot.
Yeah, swarm hosts fucking destroy. If it's not just mass anti-ground and there's a lot of Thors mixed in, swarm hosts are so fucking good.
Yeah, they're one of my go-to against like ground mech that I like. When the BC gets thrown into a mech opener, first I always just suspect it's like, yeah, this is probably going to be battle mech, because it seems like that's what it is, like 8 out of 10 times. And I have just a terrible time. I don't know what a good composition is, to be very honest, against that. I feel very... I mean, all of this early game is certainly going to help a lot, but I feel like I'm not quite sure what the ideal army I want to get versus, like... Let's say I defend the first battle cruiser and maybe the first couple pushes, yeah? I feel like I have a hard time getting on top of that army.
So all you got to know is this, okay? Okay. For all variations of mech, this will make your life way easier if you just break it down this way. If there's battle cruisers mixed in, just know you have to make Corruptor. And just try to make enough Corruptor to deal with whatever. Like, if you see he's going with single starport, just, you know, make, like, maybe 10 Corruptors and stop. But if you see he's, like, the kind of Terran that's like, wow, he's already got 5 BCs really fast, you're going to want to prioritize Corruptors more then and just make as many as will make you feel comfortable.
Okay, sure.
Because some Terrans definitely play that Sky Terran BC-only style, basically.
Sure.
But Corruptor always is what you do against BCs, and try to just make enough to what you think you need. And it's easy to know how much you need if you see anything that's not Hellions. So if you see only Hellions, there's a good chance you might go mass BCs. If you see tanks, if you see Thors, if you see Cyclones, if you see anything that costs gas that's not a Hellion on the ground, it's very likely you do not need a lot of Corruptors, but you can just make some Corruptors.
Okay.
So Corruptor Roach destroys battlecruiser builds. And then if it's not BC, don't worry about making Corruptor at all. It doesn't need to be made at all. Then it comes down to you can make Roaches against everything ground-based. So but like you can start off with Roaches and you can mass Roaches if you really feel like you have like advantages here. And then there's 2 ways to look at it where you could switch into something, and the 2 choices are Swarmhost or Muta. Swarmhost are good against hybrid mech, where it's half tank, half Thor. It's just like there's like 5 Thors, there's like 7 tanks. That's a great time to go Swarmhost. And then if it's mass tank, that's a great time to go Muta because it's no anti-air at all really. If it's like 1 or 2 Thor or 0 Thor, Mutas just win the game because you can't kill them at all. And if it's mass Thors now, if it's just mass Thors, you can literally do either option of going Swarmhost or Roaches.
And then what about Cyclones?
So that's Roaches again.
Just straight up Roaches.
Yeah, and the way you micro it is you just spread creep, you allow him to come to creep, and you just aim, like you don't aim move him, you move command into him, and you focus fire Cyclones. Because a Roach moves faster than a Hellion, or than a Cyclone does on creep. And it's a Cyclone is also very squishy. It's like made of paper. It dies so fast.
So you don't go for Feigns or Infestors or anything. You just go straight up Roaches.
You could go Infestors later on when you get comfortable with it, but you don't need to even. You honestly don't even need to.
Okay. Huh. All right.
Another way
really
you can do
versus this is just. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The last thing I was going to say was if you ever find yourself struggling against Cyclones and you're like, okay, it's really annoying. What you could do as well, instead of making, because I do think Infestors are great later on once you get really comfortable with everything.
Okay.
But for now, what I would say you could do that's an easy trick that fucks Cyclones over really bad is just get Burrow move. Like if you see, Hellion Cyclone Terran, I'll go Mass Roaches and I'll do this kite thing on creep where I let him come to creep, I chase him down, focus a couple Cyclones out. But then if he keeps making it, you just get Burrow move, and if you ever catch him where you're like, 50 Roaches just up-burrowed in like 12 Cyclones, his army just dies. It's just the game's over now.
That's interesting. I'm gonna write that down. The move command and target fire.
Yeah, because you definitely don't want to be shooting Hellions in that situation. Because if you kill the Cyclones, or you limit his number down, so if he has like 8, but you keep killing like 2 every time, and he makes a couple more here and there, but your Roach kind of turns into like maybe 40 Roaches, and he's only got like 6 Cyclones still because you keep focusing them down. He'll never be able to stop your Roaches then, and then you could actually push his base and kill him.
And then Hellions really aren't doing any sort of damage.
Exactly.
They're just there to stop like mass ling, I guess, against Cyclone and stuff. So
against Roaches, all they do is they're sponges. They just absorb damage for the Cyclone.
Interesting. Okay, I like this. So then, creep spread priority versus this.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. Mass Roaches move command.
And then, so your drone saturation is definitely a bit behind, just because your third was a bit late, and you're dealing with the Hellions. I think it almost looks like you're like over committing to it a little bit, because again, like right now, at like 5, almost like we'll say that we'll just go to 5:15 to make it even. At like 5:15, right now your third could have like 10 drones on it, for sure. And this is when you'd be taking like gases 2 and 3.
And Roach
like
right?
roughly. Yeah. Your Roach Horn will start a little bit earlier than your gases 2 and 3 because you're going to start your Roach Horn when you start saturating your third.
When you start, that's right. I'm going to organize these notes later, but I just want to make sure I have them done. I mean, it's all recorded, but you know.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, like this first 6 minutes of this game, if you get a lot of this stuff kind of like more fluid and solid, you're just going to feel like Mech is just a joke at early game.
Hey, any friend of this guy is a friend of John Gablicon of Necro Gablicon.
There will be plenty of games where I will literally beat Mech because they don't make anti-air, and I just go beat us. It happens so much.
Really?
Yeah, because it'd be a lot of Terrans. They don't make Thors right away because the reason why is they see that you're going Roaches to defend it, and you're going Queens, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I'll make tanks then. I don't want to die to Roaches." And then you're like, "I'll go beat us." And
I see. The old Muta switch.
Dude, Mutas are nuts. They're so good.
I took your advice to heart of don't play Mutas. They're too micro intensive where I'm at right now, and I feel like that is kind of true. But I guess eventually I will just need to probably start trying. Yeah.
If you're masters, I feel like you're going to be able to start handling it more and more. And the big thing is it's not like I'm telling you to like magic box it all crazy and do all these constant like micro moves here. It's really if you just see a Terran that is going excessive on the tanks. And like with this game, you can see it's a BC Hellion. This would definitely be a game where I would say corrupt or Roach.
All the way.
And
sure.
If you look at the economy right now, you have 32 drones at. We'll go back to 540. Yeah. Exactly. And this is when I said you could hit 66. So you have 38, and this is when the BC first gets to your base.
Almost have double what I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's insane.
Okay. So where do you put just queens at each base, or am I doing the right thing by having them all together at the third?
You should have all of them together except for the ones for injecting.
Okay,
and the way you should position is with the overlords that show you where he goes.
Okay, but so he teleports the BC into the main. Do you just move all the drones to the natural and start moving your queens over? Yeah, that's what
you always put the spore between. Okay, so here's the thing. We'll go back to we're not gonna actually move the replay back, but we'll talk about when your overlord scouted. Okay, so your overlord moved into his base right at like 4 minutes. You saw the fusion core right around like 4:30 to like 4:40.
Yep.
I'm just gonna say like right around 4:40 you saw it.
Sure.
And then seeing that he's going he's going a battlecruiser build. That is now a moment where you should know it's a reactor Hellion opener into a starport really fast for BCs. So now would be a good time maybe to just add in maybe like 5 roaches, just like 5 roaches into your army because now your queens are going to be busy. They
gotta move wherever the BC is.
Exactly.
So the roaches screen wherever the queens were.
Yeah, and if you would have reacted to that. That's why I always make the roach horn when I start drones at the third because you always have the choice to do this. So you would have actually, if we say that that's what you were going to do, so you're going to spend like 5 larvae on roaches. Now we're going to have to kick back the max timer or like the 66 drone timer. It won't be at like 540 anymore. Now it would be more like 550 to 555 because you're going to make roaches as well, just to be extra safe. But you would still be able to hit that drone timer really fast. And now, your queens definitely will prioritize wherever the BC goes. And until your queens go defend wherever it is, you just go opposite of where you always put the spore between the BC and your drones. And also a great way to put your queens in the right spot is to centralize them in the middle of your base. So you can get to any one of your bases as fast as possible, wherever he goes, instead of going from third all the way to main.
So in this situation, that does definitely. So queens kind of sitting in front of the natural where that creep spread is at, and then roaches at the entrance to the third, so that my drones that would be there would be protected from Hellions.
Exactly, and at this point too, you would still have your overlords in front because you still don't have creep there yet. So your roaches replace what the queens are doing, where they zone the Hellions.
Got it. Okay.
And then as soon as you get rid of the first BC, exactly. Exactly. You do not have to micro the queens at all here. Like even if you don't transfuse anything, but you just focus on the Hellions, you will still come out ahead. Because you might, even if you lose like 1 or 2 queens, but you lose no drones, that's so much better than losing like 8 drones because you tried to transfuse a queen here and there.
Right.
Because after this point, this is like you should be making now. As soon as you start like Roach Speed, you should be starting Aspire because again, if you know, oh, okay, it's BCs and it's BC Hillian. I know that Roach Corruptor is a great choice against this. You would just go to like, and then, like if you saw this too, I don't know if your Overlord saw it. It hasn't yet. So if you see he makes multiple starports, you're going to make multiple Corruptors after the first set you make. But if you see multiple factories, you're going to make just maybe like literally 8 to 10 Corruptor and stop, and you're just going to make Roaches.
Just
so
Roaches.
You max out.
Got it.
Yeah, and you would crush this dude.
And then on that kind of note, with this flow of how it's going, do you just make Roach Speed like ASAP, next 100 gas? Or...
You do. Yep. Roach Speed, like always, no matter what. If you know you're going to need Roaches because you're up against like some variation of mech and you're relying on the Roaches for this, always get Roach Speed right away.
All right. Nice. All right.
Then yeah, well, speed like that is critical. Like if you get those first 6 minutes down, you will. The rest of the game will feel so much easier. But like stuff like this, I would honestly recommend never making Ravagers.
Never.
Do not ever make them. A lot of Zergs love this, and I don't agree with it because if you think about it, that could have just been like because all those Roaches could have still been Roaches, right? And you could have just basically made like probably 8 Corruptors right there instead. And then if you had 8 Corruptors and all those as Roaches instead, like there's no intimidation here. Like I'd say the funny thing is Ravagers are actually worse than Roaches are against Hellions as well. Because it's unrealistic that you're going to hit the Hellions with a Corrosive Bile. And then the fact that Ravagers have 25 less HP than Roach does. And also Ravagers are slower than Roaches are when you have Glial Reconstitution upgrade. Like the Hellions are actually going to have a better chance against Ravagers.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that makes... I mean, that definitely makes sense. So you never make Ravagers, like, ever?
I know I do sometimes. I would make Ravagers if I went Roach only, and that was the choice I made, and my opponent was going Thor heavy. Then I would make Ravagers as well, like we're talking maybe like 8 in the back line, so I could Corrosive Bile all over his Thors every time we fought.
Okay, I see. But you wouldn't make a lot by any means.
I would never make more than 8, ever.
Okay.
Against Terran. The only time I would ever make a lot of Ravagers, maybe more than that, would be if I was playing against like Protoss, who was going for sentries, and if I was playing against Zerg, who we just both went Mass Roach Ravager, and I wanted to have like fuckloads of Corrosive Bile.
Right. Okay, sure.
But yeah, against Terran, you definitely want to prioritize your gas and better things, like Corruptors are amazing. And then also having the ability to go to just max out on Roaches faster. Because that is something that's going to be very true. If you make a lot of Ravagers, you max slower with Roaches.
Oh yeah, true. Okay, interesting.
And
so
like right now, there's 3 BCs. And you know, or like if you were in his base and you saw his production line, you'd be like, okay, well, that's 3 BCs, and I've literally seen 1 starport, and it's, you know, a bunch of factories. It's not a big deal. It means he's made these 1 by 1 by 1. And if you made the Spire as an immediate reaction right when you made Roach Speed at layer, once you have good saturation, you could make you could make about 10 Corruptors guaranteed before Yamato Cannon. It's always going to work out that way if you make them fast. And you would be fighting like the initial 1 or 2 BCs with like 10 Corruptor. So there's a good chance you might just kill BCs when they're 1 at a time, or the first 2, and then back down to 1 at a time. So it never gets to the point where it's like 3, 4, 5 BCs.
Got it. Okay.
And then if you were going up against this, where now he's going for hybrid, from what we talked about, if you remember, I'll tell you if you don't get it right. But from what we just talked about, what would you make as a unit now to go? If let's just say you had Corruptor and you had Roaches, what would be your next plan of action playing against what you see here?
Against what I see here right now, I would probably go. If I had perfect vision and I knew every unit he had right now, I would probably go Swarm Hosts.
I would agree with you. Yeah, Swarm Hosts would fucking wreck this guy.
Yeah.
Because all you'd have to do is you could actually get his attention at a base with your Swarm Host, and then you could have your Corruptors go wherever the BCs are and zone them out. And if you ever see him overstack against Swarm Host, like you see all of his army come down there, you could literally counterattack his base. Like if you're heading his 3rd with Swarm Host, you could just run and do his natural with Roaches. And then just break his SCV lines or something like that. Because Roaches are not going to be the greatest here anymore, but you could definitely use them cost efficiently if you had a lot of them. instead of trying to charge the tanks down.
So my general... Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. I'll tell you in a second.
I was just going to say my general army composition I go for when I do make Swarm Host, because they're like one of my favorite units to make in the game. Is like 25 roaches and then the rest into Swarm Hosts, and then working on getting like against mech, sometimes broods depending on how many Thors they have, or against Protoss, I mean always broods, but it's like 25 roaches and then Swarm Hosts, like all the way to 200. Sure.
Yeah, Swarm Hosts are great. They're like the whole thing about Swarm Host is I would say never go broods against mech anymore, just because Thors are just dumb. I actually used to love broods against mech, but I never do it anymore. But the whole point. Or what are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say I've had my heart broken by going, all right, I have broods. This is great. Like we're doing so well, and it's like, oh shit, it's like 4 Thors. Oh dang it!
It's fucking dumb. It's so dumb.
It's rough. It's rough. So, is there any tier 3 that you go versus mech really, or you just layer?
I actually, what I do against mech, literally, this is advanced, but I think it works. I actually have a very high win rate against mech with this.
Okay.
I go Muta, Swarm Host. I go roaches as well, but I go roach with Muta, Swarm Host, and Infester, and I burrow move. And I force base trades, and I neural all their Thors, and I engage with Mute at the same time, and I engage with Locust at the same time. And if they don't attack me, I continuously break their economy over and over and over and over with Mutas and Swarm Host.
Yeah. That is some advanced micro right there.
Yeah,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
It's really fun to play that way against mech, though. But the big thing you should realize about mech that's very important is all you have to do is never let it expand again. That's it. You don't have to break the bases they already have necessarily, especially if you're going Swarm Host, because you'll trade units out of them over and over and over every time you launch a wave of Locust. If you kill like 1 tank, 2 tanks, that's great because you keep wasting their money. But if you just don't let them expand again, you are going to win the game. Because mech is very hard to replace their army with gas. It's very gas expensive.
So in this, I have 2 questions if you don't mind. You've been on quite a long time, so I appreciate it a lot. Like, thank you already, man. At the 3rd base, if you were to, let's say, launch a Swarm Host volley at that, would you try to go for the orbital, or would you try to go for the tanks, or would you go for the SCVs? Would you just let them hit the supply depots? What would be your, like, this is perfect?
It depends what army you have with it. If you had pure Swarm Host, I would probably go for the SCVs. If you had Swarm Host and Roach, I would probably go for the tanks. If you had Swarm Host and Muta, I would probably go for the Thor. I would just synergize the Locust with whatever I had. But if I just had Locust, if I just had Locust though, I would definitely want his SCVs to get blown up by tanks. And then also, because then it's like I'm just gonna use Swarm Host again anyways later on. And if I can slow down his economy, I'll definitely keep him turtled up for longer.
Okay, smart.
Which would benefit the Swarm Host the most. But yeah, you just want to definitely synergize whatever you have with whatever you're going to prioritize with the Locust.
Okay. And one follow-up thing, I kind of just to pick your brain on it, is I've been told, and it seems to check out pretty nicely, that sometimes a Nidus in the main versus mech, like especially this kind of mech, can be really nice because they cannot move back there fast enough to do anything really about it. Yeah.
It's good. I think what you should do against mech is, like if you don't do it already, start getting melee upgrades along with range weapon upgrades, and then eventually, and then when you get into like Hive, get adrenal glands, and you can start doing Nidus's with Zerglings, like adrenal wings.
Oh, so you purely just get the melee just for like Nidus adrenal wings.
Yeah, and you could even also make rounds of speedlings every once in a while if you break the Hellbat line. So like let's just say you're going mass you start off with roaches, and let's say all your roaches have come, like, you know, they kind of died throughout the game, and now you're not really wanting to make them anymore, but you have a lot of Swarm Hosts now, and you have maybe 40 supply open still, or like 30 supply open, so you have a decent number to work with here, and you killed all of the Hellbats with your locust and like your roaches as they died, and now you just see a Terran that's pushing you with just tanks and Thors, and he's like walking on creep, and so you see his army, and you're like, okay, no Hellions here. You could literally remax Lings because they're fast, not only like physically, like they run on creep really fast, but they build really fast, and you could max quickly. And by the next time you have another locust wave, you can engage Terran with a wave of locust and adrenal Lings, and you could just break the shit out of Thor tank. Because also Lings jump on the units really fast in melee, and they make the tanks shoot themselves, basically.
Right. Okay. Huh.
Nice. And the big thing,
is good.
the huge thing with it too that makes it so good is that it doesn't cause gas. And gas is a huge thing about who's going to be able to be in control of the game for Terran and Zerg, because whoever runs out of gas first is usually going to be the one who loses. Like, so that's why if you can just limit their expansions, and then you also, after that, kill their gas army, they can't remake it. Like, they just die.
Got it. This is grade A information.
And then, so another thing too about mech that I love doing is, it might sound crazy, but I like to drone literally until about, like, I personally, you don't have to do it my way exactly. It's very greedy. I drone to 100.
100?
I literally, I drone to 100.
Jeez,
and then what? It's because, honestly, there's nothing mech can do to you. If you plan on doing like an aggressive style where you want to break their 3 base, then you might want to stop droning at like 70 to 80, and then be aggressive. But if you want to be defensive and then go for like, quick maxes really fast, you can literally drone to 100 and expand to like 6 bases by like 7 minutes. You won't have 100 drones by 7 minutes, but you'll probably have 100 drones by like 7:30, 7:40. Honestly, like it'll still be fast. And then what you'll do is you'll then make static D at every base. You should already have spores at every base, especially if you opened up with a starport. But you'll just add in like 2 spines, 2 spines, 2 spines, 2 spines, and it'll drop your drone count then down to like 85, and you'll have a maxed army at like 8.5 minutes, and it'll be of whatever you want it to be, like roaches or mutas or whatever. God. And then you can just control the game from there. That's what I usually do. But I still think, or what's up?
I was just gonna say 8.5 minutes, 100 drones, and a maxed out army.
Yeah.
Good lord. Okay.
So you should like, as soon as you do analyze its mech though, you should know that it's going to turtle a lot, and you can see like for 11 minutes now this guy has been turtled, other than the BC harass and the Hellion harass. It's only been harass. It's not actually been a real army attacking you yet, and the reason why is because this is standard for mech. Mech gets stronger the higher supply it is, so they usually will not push you until they have like 160 plus. And now if he actually were to attack you like now, I wouldn't be surprised because it's in that range. But if you just took, like, for instance, like at 6 minutes, you take your 4th base because you're fully saturated, ideally. And then at like 6:30, you take a 5th base. At 7 minutes, you take another base. At 7:30, you take another base. Like every 30 seconds, you take another base, all the way until you have like 6 to 7 bases. And you don't have to drone all of them like I do.
Yeah.
You just have to get to like 80 drones really fast, because you totally can. If you have like, we're talking like 12 roaches defending yourself, and like, if you open BC, you make like 10 corruptors. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore, up until you have like 80 drones, and then you can max super quick. And you can utilize those expansions faster. And the big thing about mech is getting gas quickly. So you could act, because again, you're gonna have like enough minerals to work with easy. But as long as you have, instead of only having like 6 gases running, if you had like 9 or 10 gases running, especially if one of those was the rich gas, which is the one you're taking right now at your 4th, that's fucking huge. And your gas is gonna explode to where you can suddenly do melee, range weapons, hive, adrenal glands, mass roaches, corruptors, carapace upgrades for corruptors, or whatever. Things like all this is going to be so easy to get, and you're going to be able to go mass swarm host. Like, you're going to have just gas surpluses all day that you can work with. And then if you ever fuck up and you're like, oh shit, I just like threw away 10 corruptors, how about I just remake 10 more because I just have so much gas? Like, that's what you want to be at, basically.
I see. Okay. Interesting. All right. I think all of that kind of hinges on that adjustment of the first 4 minutes of the game.
It really does. Yeah. That early game sets the pace hard. That's why if you can hit that 540 pace, you are fucking crushing it. Because that's GM worthy pace right there. And you know, the better you play at the first 6 minutes, the easier the whole game will feel.
Yeah, picture.
Because it's like, for me, there's been plenty of games where like I'll read chat for a second, and I'll be like, ah, fuck, okay, well we just got owned there for a second in the first 4 minutes, and now all game I'm behind. This sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, I'm gonna tell you right now, the reason why this kills you, and this is the big problem, it's because you're both equal supply.
Yeah.
And if you're equal supply on roaches, you die.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, and you also have too many corruptor, I would say, for the arm. Because what should have happened is you should have tried your best to force more trades out throughout the game with your corruptor. Because I would say your corruptor count is a bit high, considering the fact that he's very high ground-based mech. You have 15 corruptors, and I would say ideally you maybe want to have like 8, if you knew it was ground-based mech, and then on top of that, even furthermore, if you actually killed all the BCs and you were in his base and you saw it was like nothing but factories and still just maybe the 1-star port, you could even then use your corruptors to like do shit, like go into his base and just key on a command center or his armories or something. And even if they die, it's okay because the BCs are dead.
Got it. So, in this, excuse me, it doesn't apply to this game because it's not how he played, and I don't think it's gonna be really applicable. But so it would be like in this game, 9 to 10 corruptors, and then whenever the BCs come across the map, you just shoo them off essentially. So if they get up to 3 BCs, like let's say he never misses a teleport. I mean,
sure,
we're doing a hypothetical here, right? He never misses a teleport. He always saves them or something like that. Is there ever a situation where it's like 3 BCs versus 10 corruptors? Is that still a winning fight?
Yeah, and the reason why is because with this style, what you just did, if you would have done like the 80 drone thing I was talking about, but you still took more and more bases, but you stopped droning around 80, you should be maxing at like 9 minutes. And if we go back to, we'll just go back really fast to 9 minutes on the replay, and we'll see what your supply is. And it's definitely not going to be super high because you took a lot of damage and all this stuff. You're at 104. You can be maxed right now. And the thing about it is if he opens BCs, and let's say he has 2 or 3 BCs like he does, even if he has Yamato cannon and he's going to be able to kill all of your corruptors, his base of his economy will die before he's able to kill your corruptors and then kill all the roaches. Like in the time it takes him to kill all those corruptors, if he is going to win that fight, the base you're fighting him for, that's underneath the BCs, it's already dead. Like he might lift it maybe if it's not a planetary, but all the SCVs are dying. The gas is dead. Any depots that were there are dead. Like you just set him back so hard, and you can easily remake those corruptors and then all those roaches because it's cheap, because you have a good economy to easily remax with. And if you just set his economy back again and again and again, it's going to turn into a situation where he's going to keep his whole ground army keeps getting run over repeatedly. And he's like, well, I got 4 BCs that I've got to kill 50 roaches again. Well, all my SCVs are dying. Once again, this sucks.
Gotcha. Okay, I see. So it's the BC is not the problem, essentially. It's not. It's like a distraction almost.
And look at the BCs right now that are at your 4th. Check this out. I don't know if you know this, but watch this. I'm going to see when they teleport. I think they teleport. I can't remember if they do or not. I'll just go quickly.
Yeah.
Do they? Okay, right there. I'll go back to it. Did you know when a BC teleports like this right now? Watch this one in the very middle of the map. That's like flying over your roaches right now.
Okay.
Did you know when a BC teleports right now? Right there. Do you notice that the angle it's looking at is where it goes?
Ah, interesting. No, I did not.
So you can actually predict where the BCs go if you send your corruptors to top left now.
Okay.
And it's literally wherever he's pointing at. It's somewhere just in that line between the BC. Yeah. And that line between the BC where it is now and the edge of the map is where his BC is going to be. Somewhere in there. So if you just go in that direction exactly, you will be able to run him over. And you can see he's probably going to teleport above your 4th because, you know, there you go. But if you know where BCs are going to go, you can always force fights as well if you want to with your corruptor. So you have like detective corruptors basically that can just be like, I know where you are.
Nice. Okay. Okay. All right.
But yeah, like again, the max is the huge thing for you. So if you actually did just max at like a respectable time for Zerg, even like 10 minutes. Imagine if you're maxed even now. This guy would just get run over again because he doesn't like if you just went to his natural, he's got one tank sieged and then he's got one other tank that's like walking down the ramp. But like if you had like 40 roaches here right now, you'd probably lose like 10 or 15 to the tanks initially that if they all somehow shot you. But then you just run his army over, and at that point you can just remake roaches all day and just kill them.
Okay. Nice. All right. So speed, urgency to drone up hardcore, and relooking at that first 4 minutes of how I'm approaching and my timings that I take things at.
Yeah.
I definitely have been feeling the early extractors have been like not necessary, and I'm often banking like 400 gas at like 4 or 5 minutes, and it's like, why do I do this? I don't think this is wise.
Yeah, the only time you should start really exploding your gas is when you're kind of out of that phase of droning, and you're getting ready to go into that phase of making not only just like 6 roaches and stopping, but like we're talking just cranking roaches out every single second you can. Mm-hmm. And that's when you're already saturated. So minerals up to that point is definitely the priority.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then, like just to give you a guideline, like a really rough guideline, that's just like a good one to go for. Saturate 3 bases, make as few units as you can, like the 14 lings we talked about, and if you really think you need it, make like 5 or 6 roaches for like the initial Hellion defense if it's going to be paired with like BC. And then after that, once you're saturated on 3 bases and you start expanding more, make maybe another like 8 roaches, 8 or 10, that's fine. Just like what you did with the lings. And you just go up to like a safe like 15 roaches, 13 roaches, something like that. Mm-hmm. And then you go back into droning until you're at 80. So you saturate a whole 4th base now, and then you just max out. And if you do that, you'll be able to max out seriously by 9 minutes. Like that's like a solid number.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. Okay. And is this a general... I know that we've been talking mech this entire time, but is this a general same kind of flow versus bio?
I would say the thing that changes against... It is to a point. You still have the unit timings are still the same, but against bio, if you know it's bio, it's better to go for a Bane Nest instead of the Roach Warren, and you can still make the Bane Nest at the same time you would make the Roach Warren. You would make the Bane Nest when you start saturating your 3rd.
Start saturating your 3rd. So you would still skip gas and all of that.
Yes.
The 2-3, yeah. Okay.
Like all the gas timings would be the same.
Got it.
Because the only thing that'll change though, there's only one thing that will change. When you take your 4th base, when you're saturated on 3 bases, always against bio, if you're gonna go Ling Bane, always take a macro hatch. No, there's no question. Like always take it.
4th base macro hatch every time.
Yeah. Yes, because you'll never be able to spend your money otherwise, because lings are way too cheap.
Okay. Got it. And do you make another queen to inject the macro hatch, or do you just have it?
You could just rip one off the gas. Sorry, not one off the creep spreads.
The creep spreads.
So, because like at that point when you have like 15 or 20 active tumors, you could just, as you take more hatcheries, you could just rip one off, inject it, rip one off, inject it, and then all your queens become then. It's not active injectors, it's not active creep spreaders anymore. It's replacers. Your queens should always be going the direction of where the Terran scans your creep. And then you just shove them out and you replace it really fast. Mm-hmm. So you waste the scans.
Got it. Awesome. This radically changes... I mean, obviously, we've discussed quite a bit, so this does radically change my beginning game plan. Quite significantly, like right after that 20 drone is actually where everything starts to change, like a whole lot. Everything up to that, like that's fine, but then that 20 drone is like the switch, and it's like, all right, everything is different now, dude. Just get minerals, start droning that 3rd. Yeah. I'm excited to try it though. I really am. Yeah, like man. A lot of what you have been saying has just like, that makes a ton of sense.
It's all about guarding and making drones and then guarding them as much as possible.
Nice.
But yeah, man.
Interesting.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the time, my friend. I really appreciate it. And that's awesome. This is great. I took down tons of notes, and I will be.
Thanks for subscribing to the Goblin King's Twitch channel.
Thank you, bud.
You done did it.
Right. See you, man.